So here we are, a cake for Mothering Sunday and all it's required. So the first thing you need, obviously, for any cake is what? Flour, absolutely, flour. So, flour. Right? It's the basis of it all. Now, the next thing is sugar. So we'll put in a little sugar. Got some here. I mean, you could use caster sugar. That would be fine. But it's to remind you all that your mother may be square, but she is very sweet. There is actually a Tate and Lyle motto, isn't there, which is taken from the Bible. Out of the strong came forth sweetness. And what could be a better text for mothers? The strength which mothers require is amazing. I mean, you come home from hospital, ladies, don't you, having just been through labour, or maybe you've had a caesarean section, a major abdominal operation. You have any other operation like that, you come home, they say, 6 weeks rest, don't lift anything heavier than a teacup. You come home with a caesarean, and what do? Plonk 9 pounds of baby into your arms and say, get on with it. It's by the strength of mothers that children are raised. The other thing, of course, you need then is butter. It's Mothering Sunday. We're going to make no references here to fat whatsoever. But if your mother's name is Marge, that would do just as well. Just to remind you that it is through the life of mothers that the human race is increased. Then we need eggs, of course. Here we have eggs. I'm not going to make any jokes about those at all. Simply to say that throughout your life, as you were growing up, your mother shelled out for your pocket money. And of course, it's to your mother that you owe your very existence. Then a little milk. I'm not going to talk about mother's milk here, but maybe it's the milk of human kindness, but we'll add a little of that. This, of course, is UHT. That stands for unfit for human tasting. Milk now comes in red, green, and blue. In the old days, it used to come in bottles with foil tops. And so I just simply say that if your mother is now a silver top, it's probably your fault. We want a little water. And a little salt. We could have pre-mixed them, in which case we would have had something very much like tears, and all mothers spill tears over their children. And also, of course, very frequently have to restrain themselves from assaulting their children. And finally, a little baking powder. Absolutely essential, because children are not self-raising. Most important, we add mother. We add you to stir it up. You take these ingredients, you mix them for about 18 years, warm them gently with tender, loving care, and at the end, you produce a well-turned-out human being. And the moral is, well, thank you, Mum, for my existence, and you deserve your cake, and here's what I made earlier. Yes. behind that jollity, I think there is a serious point, as I was contemplating at the 8 o'clock, where they didn't get all the works there. Mothering Sunday is the one Sunday of the year when we stop and celebrate the ordinary. And we don't do it enough. We do make the gospel too highfalutin. As I remarked, if you want to become a saint, there are two things you must do. The one is become a Roman Catholic, because they're the only ones who make saints. And the other is probably start a monastic order. If you look at the number of saints that there are in the calendars, vast numbers of them, with that, right the way down to Mother Teresa. And while she did excellent work, it is not ordinary life. And what is the gospel about if it doesn't help us to live the lives that we are called to live? And it's one of the great insights of the Reformation, that whatever you do in life is your vocation. And it doesn't have to be going off into a monastery, which can be, although it has its difficulties, it can be a cop-out. Takes you away from the agonies of the decisions of ordinary life. A monk doesn't have to balance budget priorities in a care home. A monk doesn't have to cope with enraged customers at the service desk. The ordinary things of life, which the gospel is to take us through, we, by and large, ignore, because clergy don't know much about them, really. This is the one Sunday of the year when we celebrate the ordinary, the vocation of some 45% of the population, whatever proportion of ladies it is that become mothers, without which society flounders and dies, and without which the future is not very promising. It is the way children are brought up. We all, at some point in our lives, come to that horrific moment with our own children, when we say something, and we say, that's just what my mother used to say to me, that I swore I would never say to my own children. Because now it makes sense. So it's right that we take one Sunday a year to celebrate motherhood. Maybe we should have another Sunday for plumbers, accountants, software engineers, policemen, firemen, street cleaners, dustbin men. It's the making of ordinary life go that is our principal vocation. And the gospel we are supposed to bring into it as light as leaven. Didn't add any yeast to this cake, but that's what the world needs. People who live out the ordinary with the extraordinary grace of the gospel. And the most important, the most common, but the most vital, the one that underpins the nature of our society and its future, is the bringing up of children, which, however much you may have a modern man in your household, still comes down to the mother, the one who actually bears the children, the one to whom they first come when they're crying. One Sunday a year seems a pretty meagre acknowledgement of what is actually the centre of our society. On this one Sunday of the year, mothers, I hope you do get a cake and a little acknowledgement of all that you do on all the other Sundays of the year and all the Monday mornings when you get everybody else out of bed and all the times when you're simply there. Amen.